Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Canadian Football Central, CFL content for the fans, by the fans, and we have our Week 6 preview. We got 4 games coming up from the Thursday through to the Sunday. Make sure you guys leave a like if you haven't. Make sure you guys subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the little notification bell. Helps out a lot, really supports the channel. And Rick, shall we get right into it?
Hey, Carter, do you want to know something funny?
Yes.
The Ticats go 1-0 this week because they're on a bye week.
The Ticats can't lose this week because they don't play. The Hamilton Tiger Cats undefeated in Week 6 in 2024.
Our first loss. Oh, and then it makes me feel like we finally won when Andre Pruitt calls us Winnipeg during the
yeah, no, I saw that. And yeah, Ticats didn't like that. But anyways, we start the week with air horns galore. We have the Montreal Alouettes hosting the Toronto Argonauts, and we get to hear those darn air horns that we were complaining about last week, that we will complain about every week until they stop using them, but they won't, which is just damn unfortunate. It's damn unfortunate. It is what it is. 6:30 Central Time start, 7:30 out Eastern Time. And earlier than that, if you live west of Winnipeg. So, yeah. So, Rick, how are we feeling about this one? Montreal looks pretty much unstoppable. Toronto put up a decent performance against Montreal in their last showcase against one another. Montreal, though, was able to look vulnerable against Calgary, despite them getting the win, as they were down 26-15 going into the fourth quarter. So Montreal finally at least showing a little bit of vulnerability there, but Toronto was not able to get it done against a Trevor Harris Saskatchewan Roughriders. Against Shea Patterson, they weren't able to get it done. They would lose to the Riders 30-23 last week. So how do you feel about this game going in based on the team's trajectories and their last kind of meeting between the two of them?
Let's just put it out there that Marc-Antoine Dequoy is doubtful.
Yes, I was actually going to ask you to go through kind of some of the injury reports and who's healthy and who's not for both of these teams.
So here's the thing is, I don't know if you've noticed, but now that we're into Week 6, a lot of the team's injury reports have the players that are on the 6th game showing up on there.
Yep.
Which means like they're probably going to be off within like the first like week or two.
Yep.
So you'll start to see like Tunde Adeleke, who came over from Hamilton, he's not practicing this week. Jake Serezna is not playing this week. He's out with a shoulder injury. Dalen Griffin, he's out. I'm not sure if he's on the 6th game or not. John Haggerty is available. He was their punter that was out of practice on Saturday. He's playing.
Yeah. Also with just maybe specify the teams these players are on, just for those who are
not aware. So this is going over Toronto first.
Yes.
Tommy Neild, he's out.
Yeah, no, I was just figuring injury. That some viewers might not be aware, so I figured better to say
and David Unger III, he's out still. I think he was on the 6th game. Now going over to the Montreal side, Arthur Hamlin is out. Wesley Sutton, I think he's on the 6th game. He's still out. Jamar McGloster is out. Jesse Gibbon is out. Frederic Gagnon is out. And then Joshua Duvon is available. David Cote was just placed on the 6th game 3 days ago with the right quad strap injury. So they went and signed our lovely viewer, Mike Domlagala, to a contract the other day. And so also something else that I just noticed, Nathan Pierce was transferred to the practice squad, who was part of Toronto's secondary last week. And McKay Pollock from Toronto was added from the practice roster. But
is that all you got on the injury report?
So that's all I got on the injury. But is this going to be the week that Cameron Dukes bounces back?
Is this the week? Is this the week where? Because again, it's funny. It was the Alouettes. I think we were talking about this a bit in the review on how the Alouettes' victory last week was actually very reminiscent of Saskatchewan. Now, Saskatchewan's been able to do very, very well on this, but with the whole idea of the being able to get those wins by kind of relying a little bit on a great kind of splurge in the fourth quarter, that comeback victory, which again, it works until it doesn't. Saskatchewan was able to pick up a few wins with that. They've also been able to win without necessarily needing to do it that way. But if you're the Alouettes, what happened last game, as much as you got the win, I think you want to avoid that. Going down by 11 points going into the fourth quarter. It was great for them that they were able to get that 15 points and get that victory. Making sure you have a strong start, I think, is going to be really, really important. And so one guy I think that we need to highlight a little bit is Toronto Argonauts returner Janarian Grant, who had, I want to say it was this last week. I think it was this last week, who near the start of the game in the first quarter gets a punt return touchdown. So special teams work is going to be a big thing in this game between Toronto and Montreal. And so just making sure that Montreal has that proper downfield coverage is going to be really, really important. I certainly think they're capable. There's no question. But it's just one of those things. You got to be a little extra careful when you got guys like Mario Alford, when you got guys like Janarian Grant, when you got guys like Devontae Denman. You want to make sure that downfield coverage is really good. So I think that's going to be a key thing for the Alouettes here. But then also just sticking to what you've done. I mean, at the end of the day, the Alouettes are 5-0. They, they're undefeated. They are. It's funny. I was about to say the only undefeated team. They're not. The Riders are also undefeated, but the Alouettes have one extra win over them. And so if you're the Alouettes, look what's gotten you this far and continue with that. If you're Toronto, playing pretty decent so far, 2-2 record, bit of an off game this past week. As I think if you're Toronto, losing against a backup quarterback, not an ideal thing. Again, Saskatchewan's a really strong team. There's no question about it this year. You just don't. You're going to have to expect that the pressure that Cody Fajardo is going to get you is much. You're going to get a lot more pressure from Cody Fajardo than you will have last week with Shea Patterson. God, I'm stumbling all over myself.
So, you know how I am with all these crunching numbers and everything.
Yep.
So Cameron Dukes has thrown 405 yards within the last two games.
Yep.
Keep in mind these two games are both losses. He's thrown 0 touchdowns and 5 interceptions in 2 games.
Yeah. Now, I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure. Let me see here. I think a lot of those picks were last game. Yeah, 4 of them were just last game. Just to keep in mind. Because you said he threw 5 in the last 2, right? That's like...
Well, yeah, because he threw...
Yeah.
And he's thrown 0 touchdowns.
Yeah, well, that's a bit of an issue, especially since if you're looking at that Argonauts receiving core, there's no question that this is not a receiving core that's able to kind of get that finish with Coxie and with Bailey and with Daniels and with Grant and everyone that they have there. There's no question that this isn't a capable Argonauts receiving core. It's just being able to get that finish and not necessarily having to rely solely on getting those touchdowns in short yardage or just running that in with Kadeem Carey, who Kadeem Carey has done a decent job with them so far. Definitely had a bit of a rough game last game, 39 yards, 11 rushes, not what you're looking for out of your number one running back. So I think establishing a good offense against Montreal is going to be key, because the fact of the matter is that the Alouettes, whether you like it or not, are going to be putting up points on you constantly. So if you're not able to keep up, then I think you're going to be in trouble.
The big question is this week, which receiver on Montreal is going to have a big week?
I'm not going to lie. I think we're going back to
Speaker.
Tyson Philpott.
You think it's going to be Tyson Philpott?
I think it's going to be Tyson Philpott again. No, it's one of those things where the Montreal Alouettes have seemingly had a complete roulette table full of receivers having great games, where every game you just throw all the receivers that are playing, and you throw the ball in there, you see where it goes, and that's who's going to have that star game. But no, I think
and see what sticks.
I think Tyson Philpott is going to be one of the star guys in this game against the Argonauts. And I think Toronto is going to need to be very, very careful about how they cover that. I do think the Alouettes, their O-line has been very, very good. I do think that the Argonauts are going to put a bit more pressure with their D-line. I really do like this Argonauts D-line. There's a lot of capability there. And from everything I've seen, it looks like the D-line, despite the fact that the team has gotten a little worse. It looks like the D-line had been able to kind of refine themselves a little bit. Sometimes they're not necessarily always getting as many sacks, but that also depends on the opponent as well. But I think now that this D-line has had more time to gel together, I think they could be a bit of a bigger threat than they necessarily were in the first game against the Alouettes. So that is something to keep in mind. But we've been talking a lot about this game, Rick. What is our prediction? Shall I go first?
What's that? Shall
I go first or you?
Sure.
I think Toronto puts up a bit of a fight, but I think Toronto comes out of this game with a losing record. My prediction is that the Montreal Alouettes continue their undefeated streak and go 6-0 to start the season.
I mean,
because you need a big bounce back to not only going from losing to backup quarterback Saskatchewan Roughriders to beating undefeated with an extra win Montreal Alouettes, and I don't know if I see that.
So here's the thing that I don't know if you do remember is Toronto's going into this 0-2.
Yep.
If they lose this game, they're going to be 0-3, and they play Hamilton next week. So it's like, do Toronto...
And this will be Hamilton after they finally got a much-needed rest, and hopefully Hamilton's able to use that to kind of do a proper reset and get their season going, just because it hasn't gone anywhere as of so far. So I think if you're an Argos fan, you're really hoping for a Argonauts loss here.
But I mean, even if you go... even if Toronto... these are the games that you have to win against your division.
Yes.
And for Toronto to go in and be already 0-1 against Montreal, and the way that Dukes has been playing, I don't think Toronto wins this one.
Yeah, so no, it's one of those things where if Toronto doesn't win this game, they really open the door for Ottawa to actually possibly come into second in the East, and I guess finally start living up to the potential of a lot of the players they have in there. But looks like both of us are going to be taking the Alouettes this week, which then moves on ourselves on to the next game of the week, which is the Winnipeg Blue Bombers hosting the Calgary Stampeders. This will be Friday, July 12th. I will be at this game. I wasn't at last week's game as I was in Toronto, actually. I was there watching Friday Night SmackDown, WWE Money in the Bank, and NXT Heatwave. Got a full, almost hour-long video covering all that stuff on the Nolan Hockey Podcast. Link to the channel is in the description below. Now, regarding this game, let's hear the injury report first, because I do think that is a bit important, and I'm going to let you go through that. I know you like going through that, so.
Okay,
so are we starting with Calgary or Winnipeg?
Okay, so we'll go with Calgary first.
Okay.
So keep in mind, this is just speculation.
And this is also heard for those aware, this is recorded at 11 p.m. Central on Tuesday the 9th. A lot can change in the few days. We just got to make our predictions when we can because we want you people to be able to see this wonderful video for a bit before this game's
No,
out.
what I was going to say was it has nothing to do with the injury report, but with what I've heard on the internet sphere, Jamal Morrow failed his physical again.
I heard that too. I have heard that as well. I just wanted to put that out there just because, again, it's important for people to realize that stuff can change in the future.
So the reason why I mentioned that, the reason why I mentioned that is because Calgary still has to practice Wednesdays. So these players may play, these players may not play. We don't know. We're just mentioning these things.
Yeah.
So Trey Adams-Dukes, full practice. I think he's on the 6th game. Cameron Eccles is a full. BJ Emmons.
When you say full, you mean they're playing, right?
Like, no, as in like full practice. Because, like I said, some of these guys could be on the 6th game and still can't be taken off, and they're still full practice.
Okay.
Like I said, I won't know if they're out until tomorrow when they practice.
Gotcha.
Their last practice.
No,
BJ Emmons did not practice today.
Okay.
Rice and John was a full practice today.
Do we have any confirmation of those on the injured list or no? Just wondering.
If what?
Like any players on the injured list.
Yeah, there's all these players are listed as either full, did not practice, or is limited.
Okay. Gotcha.
Adam Knorr did not practice.
Okay.
John McEwen, offensive line, limited. Dedrick Mills was a full practice. Rodney Randall Jr. did not practice. Kyle Sexlet, I believe is on the 6th game. I could be wrong, but he was limited.
Okay.
Trevon Tate was a healthy scratch. He was full. Malcolm Thompson, limited, and that was a defense back. And the last player on their list is Darius Williams, and he was full practice, but he had a calf injury. Now, over to the good news for the Bombers.
Yep.
It looks like Zach Claros practiced 2 days from his thorax injury, so it looks like he could be playing this week.
Yep. Now, I will say, it's possible. It would be nice to have Claros back. I will say I actually did quite enjoy what I did see from Streveler last week. But I will say, if that O-line plays the way they did last game, with Zach Claros behind there, I think we might see a bit of a different Zach Claros. So I'm hoping for that. But I'm going to let you finish through the injury report for the Bombers.
So Noah Hullett, 2 days full practice. He's your guys' DB.
Noah Hallett?
Yeah. Hip injury. He 2 days full practice. Tanner Clade Willard.
Yep.
He did not practice on Monday, but full practice today.
Yep.
Adam Bighill's listed as a shoulder. Did not he was limited Monday, full practice today.
Yep.
Stanley Bryant. Hip injury. Did not practice Monday. Did not practice Tuesday.
Yeah, no, Stanley Bryant, I doubt he's going to be in. For those who don't remember, fourth quarter, Bryant gets a little shaken up, and I'm not sure exactly what it was, but it didn't look good.
It was a hip injury.
Hip injury, yeah, he was limping to the sideline. So I would not be surprised if we don't see any Stanley Bryant in this game for Winnipeg.
They do have Brady Oliveira listed as a shoulder. Did not practice on Monday, but full practice on Tuesday.
Yeah, this is not uncommon.
And then Chris Ike with a knee injury. He did practice full on Monday, but did not practice today. So Carter, how are we thinking?
Honestly, I feel decent. I mean, for Winnipeg, it was nice to finally get our first win. It's been a bit. However, this will be a tough one. You know, Calgary, I think, has kind of, I guess, punched above their weight when it comes to our expectations. I mean, they took the Owlets to the breaking point. And now Winnipeg kind of looking to claw their way back towards a a decent record because they still don't have that. They're gonna need to really get something done against Calgary because Calgary now Dedrick Mills again didn't play last week, and it's possible and it's entirely possible he doesn't play this week. And maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. They were using pretty much seemingly anyone rushing last week. Trying to think here exactly how I want to chat about this game. Just in the sense of from a Bomber standpoint, the big thing is going to be having that O-line play the way they did last game and having the D-line even play the way that they did because Willie Jefferson came out of hiding last week and had a great game. And I think putting some pressure on Jake Maier. Jake Maier is a quarterback who can be decent when he has that time, but if you put enough pressure on him, he's a quarterback that can kind of crack and make some mistakes under that pressure. So I think it's going to be really, really important for Winnipeg having a good pass rush and having good coverage to then pick those up and hopefully get some turnovers against the Stampeders.
I'm going to bring out an interesting stat for you.
Yes.
So Zach Collaros is 66 for 106 for 62.3% completion, 796 yards, 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. If Zach Collaros starts, he has to score touchdowns this game for you guys to even win.
Yeah. Although the one thing I will say, even if Zach Collaros starts, I would be okay seeing around 50-50 between him and Streveler. Having Collaros in for some plays, but then also having Streveler. I think Streveler going in with his first start of the season, his only start of the season, and getting the Bombers that victory, I think that has value, and I think Streveler has kind of earned some playing time, maybe not necessarily as a starter if Collaros is truly healthy and available. But just because of his performance and he's being able to get it done with Winnipeg. So I think the Bombers have done this thing with that Buck Pierce has done where he's kind of used a little bit of both of them. A lot more Collaros, but has brought in Streveler even on plays that Collaros was in as well and has utilized both of them even in the same play. And so I think I'd like to see more Streveler. Even if Collaros is in, I do want to see more Streveler. And so I just kind of hope that that's kind of how Buck Pierce views it, but I cannot get in the mind of Mr. Buck Pierce. At the end of the day, there's not a ton I have to say about this game, to be honest. And I'm already ready to get into the prediction. How about you?
So I'll go first this time.
Okay.
I honestly think until I see more success from Collaros, I'm going with Calgary on this game. I just don't think like you've seen enough with like Collaros is 9th in yards.
Yep. No,
10th is Chris Streveler with 297.
Yep. In the
until you see more positivity from Collaros, I don't think Winnipeg even has a chance.
Yeah, no, that's where I will disagree with you a bit. Now, I do agree that Collaros needs to prove himself this season because he hasn't. I do. Now, there's two big factors that I think we're not talking about. Number one, there's no confirmation that Collaros plays. There's no confirmation in regards to that. So it's possible that Streveler starts this game. So there's that. Number two, O-line, big improvement, and that's a really big thing that we can't ignore. Even though Collaros wasn't performing, I'm not going to pretend and say the O-line was anything special in front of him, but the O-line last game was special. Now, obviously, they're most likely going to be dealing with the loss of Stanley Bryant on the left tackle, and that will hurt, but I think the Bombers were able to get a lot more going in the run game than they were in prior weeks. So as much as there's certain things I agree with you there, I don't think that the Bombers are entirely reliant on Zach Collaros for their offense because of the fact that there's no confirmation Collaros plays. I think Streveler is going to get more field time, and the running game has gotten significantly better with the O-line opening those pockets up, and Oliveira finally having a really good game, hitting over 100 yards rushing. So I am going to go with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
And let's just hope that you guys don't have to depend on Mr. Sergio Castillo for the whole game once again.
Yes. Although I will say he's been money. And I would be interested to see if Mr. Lucky Whitehead finally, maybe gets a start now that he's been here a little bit. He hasn't been here very long. Hopefully he's had time to learn the playbook. To be fair, he's also going to be familiar with most of the stuff that's already in there. So it'd be nice if we see Lucky Whitehead in that receiving core. Maybe him and Caleros can bring back some of that connection and magic that they had before. And I'd like to see Lucky Whitehead and Chris Smith as the two returners that Winnipeg use. So just figured I'd mention that before we get into the next one.
And the next one, I think, besides the Montreal versus Toronto game of the week, this is going to be...
This is the hardest one. This is the hardest one to call.
This one will be the one that I think you'll start to see the beginning of who will lead the West this year.
Yeah, no, I think this will be the toughest game of the week probably to call. Is going to be Saskatchewan versus BC Saturday at 6 p.m. Central, that is 7 p.m. Eastern. This game is going to be damn close because BC, had a little bit of a slow start, but then they were able to really get going, and Vernon Adams Jr. has been incredible and has been, in my opinion, the best quarterback in the CFL so far this season. Cody Fajardo's been good, but I think Vernon Adams Jr. has earned that spot at number one this season so far, and he is just, Michael Alway put it best when we interviewed him in saying that Vernon Adams Jr. is a slippery quarterback. He's very hard to tackle. He finds a way to get through, and right when he's on second and long, as much as he's looking for those receivers, he's looking for that chance to bolt up and grab those yards himself, and he's been able to get it done numerous times. And Saskatchewan, a key thing to mention here, Shea Patterson gets the win against Toronto. Big win for Shea Patterson. No question. I don't think anyone is doubting that Shea Patterson very much earned that win. Does he do the same thing against BC?
The difference is
don't know.
The key difference is
yep.
Sean Bain Jr. is back this week after he had to deal with a death in the family, so he will be back this week.
That's true. And our condolences to Mr. Sean Bain Jr. That's absolutely horrible. So I hope nothing but the best for him. Seriously, I just feel like that's important to mention.
Yeah. So out of the main big name people for Saskatchewan,
yep.
Thomas Hudon missed practice today with a head injury. He was limited. Malik Carney, knee injury, was limited today. Brian Cox Jr. was limited with a back. He's on the defensive line. Other than that, Amari Henderson was a healthy scratch on the DBs. And Roland McGilligan Jr. was shoulder listed, and he was limited. And BC did not practice today.
So how are you feeling, all in all? Like, that's kind of a bit of the injuries there.
Because here's the thing, because looking at Saskatchewan's previously 2 games, we are now seeing the deciding factor that how much the difference makes for an offensive line when AJ Ouellette plays.
Yep.
When he was with Toronto last year, he was getting all these yards. He's not even putting up 5 yards a carry.
Yeah.
And yeah, AJ Ouellette can block, but unless you can put up, more than 3.7 yards a carry.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, that's where I think a lot of people really forget at how important having a good O-line is in conjunction with not just your quarterback, but with your running back. And in how you can have the greatest running back in the world, but if you can't have an O-line who can open up any sort of hole for him, it's not really going to matter. And vice versa. You can have the greatest O-line in the world that can open up holes all day, but if a running back can't take advantage of that and use that to the fullest, it's one of those things where that can spell disaster. And I think this is a situation we're looking at a talented running back being a little bit limited by what his O-line is being able to provide him. So if you're Saskatchewan, I think that offensive line kicking it into gear. There's no question of guys that are talented on there. And so I think if you're Saskatchewan getting that set up, and if you're Corey Mace getting that, really in gear, so you guys can continue this winning streak, is going to be really important for Saskatchewan.
What I'm actually curious to see of how well Saskatchewan's defense is going to go up against Vernon Adams. That's going to be the deciding factor in this game.
Yeah. So, all in all, how are we feeling?
If you can't have a team that puts up, two of the receivers put up over 100 yards and beat them.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good your defense is. But all in all, I'm going with the Lions.
I'm going BC too. I think Vernon Adams Jr. With the way that he was able to hit Hollins and hit McInnes, I think he kills Saskatchewan with the deep ball. I think that's where Saskatchewan gets burnt, is that they'll do a decent job stopping a few 10-yard throws, 5-yard throws onto the sides, onto the flats. I think they might do a decent job stopping the running game and making sure William Stanback isn't being able to be a big threat. But that occasional ball that Vernon Adams Jr. is going to throw, 40, 50, 60 yards, that's going to kill Saskatchewan. And I think, as much as Shea Patterson had a good game last week, am I confident he can do the same against the Lions defense? I don't know. And I just think there's so much more certainty with a quarterback like Vernon Adams Jr. than there is with Shea Patterson. No diss to Shea Patterson. I mean, for a backup, he's gone in and done more than I think any one of us have expected from him. And I'm not saying he's not capable of putting up a performance that he wants to against BC. It's just that I think BC, I think the ball's in their court a bit, and so I think BC gets the victory.
Interesting note, that one last thing that I will mention on this game, had it have been Adams versus Harris, you could almost do a coin flip to decide who is winning this if Harris was playing.
Yeah. So, last game of the week, Sunday, July 14th. This will be the Ottawa Redblacks in Edmonton at Commonwealth Stadium against the Edmonton Elks. 6 p.m. start Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. Good God, this week is so difficult. And I just, I don't know.
So the difference with this game is, A, does Drew Brown play?
Yeah,
B,
that's kind of the big thing.
B, does Edmonton's new defense, with the addition of Moncrief and Oakman, get to Drew Crum if Adams doesn't play?
Justin Crum, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, not Drew Crum. You're mixing the quarterbacks.
Yeah, I don't know why I said Drew Crum. So it's going to be interesting to see who steps up for Ottawa this week, because they're going to need people to have.
Justin Crum needs to have a game. I think that's where I think Edmonton has a bit of the edge in the sense of some new faces coming in. Some proven talented on the defense, something that Edmonton struggled with a little bit, despite being able to get some decent offense in some cases. Having a good receiving core, I think Edmonton's offense can continue to do what they've kind of done a pretty decent job at. Edmonton's defense was where they were lacking, and they went out and they signed a few guys to really bolster that. And so I think that will make a difference. We're dealing with a situation of Edmonton's offense is going to be able to do a bit more because Ottawa's defense just isn't at the caliber at some of the other teams that Edmonton has played. Ottawa's offense is hindered by the loss of Drew Brown, most likely. And then also Edmonton's defense is bolstered by new guys coming in. So, even though Ottawa has looked very, I'd say overall evenly matched towards Edmonton. I just think that certain circumstances are maybe what kind of sways the game this week between these two. Do you want to read out besides this, I guess Drew Brown that we talked about? Do you want to read out the injury reports?
So neither team has practice, only because teams don't practice until Wednesday with Sunday starts. So no team has practice, but at the same time, there's no reports that say that Drew Brown has been placed on the injury list either.
Yep.
So as of right now, it could just be that he is starting, and if he is starting, then they need a big game from him. Even if he does start, as much as this hurts me to say this, I still think Edmonton comes out with the victory on this.
I was about to say,
we are going to be the last team. And keep in mind, these two teams play each other, and they flip it, and they play in Ottawa next week.
And they're going to play each other again.
And they play on Friday next week.
Yeah, and that will actually be, for those wondering, we will probably actually next week. Not this week. This week we might stream a game. I don't know. We'll see. But next week we will for sure be streaming on July 19th. Winnipeg versus Saskatchewan in Mosaic Stadium. We will be streaming that. So make sure you guys tune into that. We might be streaming something this weekend though. I'll see exactly what I got going on, and Rick, we can kind of chat and see if there's one of the days we're able to stream.
So
we're
I'm
definitely not able to do the Thursday one. I know that for sure. You know that for sure. Because we're going to be interviewing Saskatchewan Roughriders linebacker AJ Allen. That will be commencing on Thursday and will be posted Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern and at noon Central Time. So if you guys have any questions for Riders linebacker AJ Allen, make sure you guys comment that in the comment section down below. Sorry, I just thought of it. I wanted to get that out, Rick. So
what I was gonna say was, so I assume that your pick, you're going with Edmonton. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. No, I think Edmonton has everything going for them, going into this week, and so despite the fact that I think a fully healthy Ottawa team, puts up a good fight, and I think they maybe come out with a victory if Edmonton doesn't make some of those signings. I think the Elks get their first win of the year, and I think unfortunately your Hamilton Tiger Cats will be the last team in the CFL still without a win.
You know what though? You laugh it up now.
I wasn't laughing.
I'm just kidding.
I know.
I was just looking at the receiving stats.
Just wait until Labor Day, baby. It's the Hamilton way.
There are 5 players from Hamilton.
Yep.
In the top 25 in receiving yards.
So what have we learned, ladies and gentlemen? It's not the offense.
It's not the offense.
No.
And do you know how much I've been staring at my phone waiting for that news of, ladies and gentlemen, Mark Washington has been canned. Oh, I don't know about you guys, but do you guys, just out of curiosity, do you guys have a show where fans call in afterwards?
Call in afterwards?
Yeah.
So Darren Bombing and Bonfire Sports, along with sometimes Chris Walby, sometimes he'll be on that. They'll do their post-game live streams. And they'll have kind of fans comment on that, and they'll be able to use that for some talking points in addition to kind of the stuff they have prearranged. 680 CJOB in Winnipeg might have that. I know they do the radio broadcast for the Bombers. I'm not sure if they have any call-ins that they do afterwards. I would have to look into that.
The reason why I brought it up is, so Ticats in Hamilton, we have this thing called the fifth quarter with Rick Zamprin. And if you go and listen to Saturdays or Sundays fifth quarter,
yep,
you would not believe of how many Ticat fans were calling for the head of Mark Washington.
I mean, with an 0-5 team in a pretty strong football market, I actually might be able to guess that there was quite a few.
Oh, there was every fan was.
You know,
and if they don't fire him this week, they
all the pitchforks are out in Hamilton.
Oh, it's not. Oh, you got to make the Simpsons reference. It's the flaming pitchforks.
The flaming pitchforks. There you go.
Well, we're not in farm country, but yeah.
Fair enough. Is there anything else that you got there, Rick? I think I pretty much got everything I wanted to chat about.
No.
Anything else you got? Make sure you post this on Spotify. For those listening to this on Spotify.
Oh, speaking of Spotify.
Oh, yeah?
We actually have our second 5-star review.
Hey! And you know what that means? That means you need to join the club. We got 2 5-star reviews on Spotify. So if you're listening to this on Spotify, make sure you do that. Helps out the channel a ton. However, you might be a YouTube listener. You might be wondering, what do I do? I first ask, why didn't you listen at the start of the video? I then ask, make sure you guys leave a like, share the video around, and give it a subscribe. If you got other friends that are getting into the CFL, show them this video. Get all
don't forget
going.
There are our beautiful listeners who like to listen as they work, so they like to download it. So that's another reason to add us to your Spotify listen list.
That's right. Do that.
You can listen to us.
Do what he said. I don't use Spotify very often. Rick uses it probably a lot more. So do what he said. Sounds like a good idea to me. So again, make sure you guys take care. Have a wonderful week. And that is all.